Jasmine, can I co-host with you so you can help me with the waiting room?
That would be just fine.
Wow, can I do that once I've opened the presentation?
If you see the three little dots
Oh,
on my
right on
picture,
here. Okay, there you go. It's like we only have a few folks. Maybe we'll wait one more minute before we get started here. Thank you all for joining us tonight.
Hey, Troy, this is Rod.
Yeah,
People will be having a hard time with that link. It wasn't like a live link. I had to copy and paste it into my browser.
we had problems with that earlier. We had to reset it, so I'm not sure why it's doing that.
Anyway, it does the link does work, but you've got to copy and paste it.
It's not live in the calendar, you're saying?
No, you can't just click on it. You have to, yeah.
A-team, is there anything I can do to fix that?
Probably not likely at this point in time. They'll just might just need to communicate to copy and paste it in a browser somehow.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how to communicate that because
Yeah.
built the same way. You can only build a calendar event one way. I'm not sure why it would do that. Being weird. Technology is being strange for sure. Well, there must be a lot of frustrated participants coming in because I'm sure that there are a lot more than 10.
Yeah, I would agree. Just trying to think of how we can get the link out to people.
It looks the same.
Usually it's got like a space or something in it, Troy, so it doesn't recognize it as a link, like at the end or the beginning.
Yes, wasn't built any differently. That's why I don't understand. Wow. Well, I think we're just going to have to move on. It is being recorded, so if folks don't get 100% of it, we can go back. But thank you all for joining us. If you're able to share with the other folks who may be trying to get in, it appears that the link is not directly bringing you to the a Zoom meeting. It has to be cut and pasted into a browser. We will try to accommodate as we can, but we're going to get started. With that, thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to give you an update tonight that is the information is current as we have it, and we're going to follow a little different format. We need to start with the middle school tonight, then the high school, and then elementary school, and then just a few things to finish up at the end. And we're going to have a question and answer after each building so that we can address the specific questions for each building right away. And so with that, I will introduce our chair, Sherry Reedman, for our school board. She has a message that she'd like to share with everyone.
Thank you, Troy, and welcome everyone. Good evening. I'm Sherry Reedman, Chair of the Manual School Board. On behalf of your school board members, Greg Traeger, Rod Hill, Teresa Kincaid, John Conklin, and me, I want to share some appreciations and updates with you all. First, we want to thank our students, parents, and community members for your ongoing support and engagement in what's happening in our schools. We are close to bringing kids back into our buildings to hybrid instruction, and that is exciting. Things haven't always gone smoothly over this past year, and the hiccups aren't caused by our district leaders and employees' lack of hard work, extensive planning, and keeping the well-being of our students at the center of it all. Our ask of you, patience over the next few weeks and months. Let's continue to be kind to one another as we adapt to a series of never-before-seen conditions. We also want to thank our administrative team of Superintendent Troy Stoops, High School Principal Dale Peterson, Middle School Principal Jared Tickey, Grade School Principal Jasmine Winslow, and Special Services Director Erica Gordon, and every employee of our district for their perseverance, dedication, and innovation during this year that has been challenging, disruptive, and disheartening. They have been working tirelessly for nearly a year to provide the very best remote education possible during a worldwide pandemic and navigate an ever-changing and unimaginably complex set of circumstances, many of which are unique to Oregon, to get students safely back to in-person learning. You may be aware that Superintendent Stoops has resigned, and his last day with us will be June 30th of this year. Mr. Stoops has served our district in leadership positions for 19 years as superintendent for the last 10. We are grateful for his vision and collaborative leadership during that time. No one stays in a position forever, and we are already moving ahead with the recruitment for filling that hugely important role. As of today, this is what we know. We, your board, will continue to work collaboratively with Mr. Stoops between now and the end of June. We will hire a search firm to support the superintendent recruitment process. We are using an online survey tool initially to gather information from district employees, students, parents, and community members on what qualities and qualifications we want in our next superintendent. That survey is ready and open through March 4th. The results will influence the job description we use when advertising the position and selection criteria applied to the pool of applicants. Please find it on our district website and consider taking the time to share your feedback with us through this tool. We have a draft of a timeline for the entire process. If all proceeds as we hope, we will start accepting applications by March 11th, and an offer will be made to the board's top candidate by May 24th. During the process, we will ask others to participate. This may include choosing a selection committee to inform the screening process and hosting a day in the community event for the final candidates to engage with staff, community members, and students. This has been an unbelievably hard year. Take care of yourselves, ask for help if you need it, offer help when you see a need, and know we are proud of our district. I'll hand it off now to our administrators who have important information to share. Thank you.
You're muted, Troy.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you for joining us. I know some of you are coming in a little late because of the link on the website appears to not be live and you're having to cut and paste it into a browser. We apologize for that. We're not real sure how that happens, but we are going to take a little bit different sequence tonight. We're going to start with our middle school and then move to our high school and then to the elementary as our final building. And we will provide an opportunity after each principal speaks to have question and answer specifically for those buildings. We've been working hard to make our buildings work for hybrid instruction. And we're really fortunate to be able to offer K2 4 days a week. That's very unique. We're very fortunate to be able to provide live instruction on those days when kids are still learning from home, which is very rare in this day. And so we're really fortunate to be in this situation. I know there are still some concerns out there about our last board meeting and about the concern about not being able to move up the dates. It is not possible to move up the dates. We have scrambled during the power outages and the ice storm just to make sure that we can get our K-1 kids open on Monday. And that is going to happen, but not without the efforts of a lot of volunteers and folks who came in on their own time when they didn't even have power at home to make sure that our schools are ready for kids come Monday. And as you'll see, as our principals present their information, I hope that you gain a better understanding of the magnitude of the logistics of making this happen in our buildings. The majority of it is the physical arrangement of our spaces and not knowing exactly how many kids are going to come in the front door and making sure it's going to work in each grade. We have classrooms that are going to be maxed out and our classrooms are going to be full. That means that if one new student moves in some of our situations, it could have an impact on whether or not students are able to attend 4 days a week or 2 days a week. And so we are working hard to make sure that we can accommodate those changes, those unexpected changes. But it's going to be a adjust as you go type of a process. That's just the way that's going to be. We've had surveys out to parents. Elementary has worked with surveys. They're still trying to get responses from some parents. And so we're trying to anticipate what is actually going to, how many students are actually going to show up on Monday. High school survey went out today. Middle school is going to be following up with a survey as well. That information will dictate how many spaces we have in each classroom because we have a maximum amount. We can only allow one person in each classroom to have 35 feet, no more. And so that dictates we're having to move teachers to different classrooms. We're having to move in some cases, students to different teachers. And if that's what it takes to get our kids back in our classroom in front of their teachers, then that's what we're going to have to do. So we thank you for your patience. We know these are difficult times, but I can assure you that our staff are working their hardest to get kids in front of them. We see these lippy kids in front of us, and I have staff sending me photos of, here they are, isn't this amazing? And it's just, everybody is so happy. It's definitely worth the effort. So be patient. Please listen closely tonight, and please ask specific questions for the buildings. This is a great opportunity, and especially for K2 parents, you have kids that are coming to our buildings next week. So welcome and thank you for coming. Mr. Ticky.
Thanks, Troy. All right. So for the middle school, a lot of you guys may have seen some of this information at the board meeting, and there's some new information to kind of update you guys on along the way. As a reminder, students are still scheduled to receive 4 days of teacher facilitated instruction, 2 days on site, and 2 days live streamed at a distance. Half of the students, 6th through 8th, will attend cohort A, which is our Monday and Thursday cohort. And the other half are going to attend Tuesday through Friday in cohort B. Wednesdays will continue to be asynchronous instruction days for all students. And that is a day in which staff are able to continue to meet, continue to deliver professional development, and just prepare instruction for those upcoming weeks. 2 staff members are going to be assigned to each core content area classroom at the middle school. So that second staff member is going to be able to help facilitate teaching and learning that's happening at a distance, while the teacher that is in front of students is able to care for the students that are there and live in person. In the 3rd and 4th quarters of this school year, social studies is going to replace PE health in the student's schedule, but PE health is not going away entirely. We're still anticipating being able to offer PE health for all students at least 1 day per week. And so Ms. Kukar is working her magic with our ELA team to find great opportunities for students to stay active. Our cohort information is finalized. We do know which students are in A and B cohorts, and we hope to get that information to all students and families by March 5th. So like Troy said, classroom sizes is typically a limitation that we're finding ourselves up against. the way the middle school is planning is we're anticipating and planning for all students to be in person. Some students and families may opt to stay at a distance. If all were to be in person, we do have some classroom limitations, and you can see that picture there of a typical classroom and how many spaces would be available. But we intend to move forward and be creative in finding opportunities to provide all core classes and electives on site. Next slide, if you can. All right. So at the board meeting, you guys saw me show two different options. You know, after some consideration and looking at those classroom structures, we're going to look to move forward with option one, which is having all core classes and electives, including lunch, on site. This maintains our current bell schedule, and so very little change for students and families. Morning breakfast will be available to all students in their first period classrooms. And like we said, students would be eating lunch on site. And so they would be eating lunch on site, and because of just health and safety limitations, they would be eating them in their classroom cohorts, so attached to their fourth period class. Elective classes would be in person, and office hours would continue to be at a distance. And so after their fifth period class, teachers have their prep period, and then office hours would be that 2:30 to 3:30 time. You know, part of the considerations that go into option one is that increased risk level when we talk about cross cohorts as far as the elective classes are concerned. And so that is something that we're continuing to plan very seriously around and make sure that we're taking the necessary precautions to keep all students in safe, you know, every moment that they are on campus. Also looking at just different circumstances with the transportation of band instruments and other materials that our students may need, art supplies, things of that nature. These are all things that we're working with our staff on, and just our building experts to try to figure out how can we make this as safe as possible for students. Limited in-person instruction. It was amazing to get to stand out there today at 2 o'clock and welcome our first group of students to limited in-person instruction. Cohort 1 has 20 students currently right now that have accepted that invitation. And we sent out communication that you guys see right there, a little cover letter with some specifics and some student health agreements for students and families to be aware of. Cohort 2, we're looking to begin next week, which would be an additional 26 students if each person or each student and family accepts. And so we're really excited to get 4 days of limited in-person instruction on site by the end of next week. And upcoming student and family surveys. The first one to talk about is MAMS Athletics. We really want to be able to get students active and involved in extracurricular activities. And so we're going to be looking forward to spring sports and sending this survey out to parents, but also providing that opportunity for students to fill it out in the classroom setting, because we really want to know first who's interested in what sports, so we have numbers to be able to plan accordingly. And as Mr. Stoops mentioned earlier, we'll also be sending out a return to in-person learning survey. And so when you get this survey, please fill it out at your earliest convenience, so it gives us the necessary information to plan as we look forward to these next few weeks. And with that, I'll take any questions that you guys might have.
If anyone would like to unmute and ask a question, we'd welcome that at this time. Okay, good job, Mr. Tiki.
If there are any questions that come up along the way, never hesitate to reach out to me at the middle school. I'm always happy to take those and give you a call back if I'm not available in the moment. Thanks, guys.
All right, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Jared, and thank you, Mr. Stoops. I just want to start by thanking some people that have really worked hard to get us in a position to be able to bring kids back right now in limited in-person instruction, and then here shortly with our hybrid model. So first, Grant Henderson with his crew to get our buildings ready. Scott May, our tech, we always laugh, he's our technology department, but there's only one of him. But I want a big shout out and a thank you to him for all the work that he's doing. Sue Sprower, who's been working tirelessly to get transportation schedules put together. And then also Gail Schmidt with food services. This is an undertaking that none of us have ever taken on. And quite frankly, nobody in the state has taken on either. And I truly believe I work with a staff that's none better than they are. So I am super appreciative of them. I want to talk also real quickly about and thank McKenna Coons, who was our LRC teacher at the high school and case manager. She started our first cohorts of limited in-person instruction prior to the ice storm, if you will. And Autumn Traeger, who started up another module or another group, actually two groups of limited in-person, one yesterday and one today. So totally, right now we've got roughly about 25, 26 kids who are coming in at various times throughout the building. I expect that to increase as we get plans for others to come in too. So there's wonderful things happening in our buildings, and it could not do it without the work of these fine people. I'll start off with our hybrid instructional model. This is a typical day, as you would see in JFK, much like your kids have seen right now. There's 4 periods. There is a lunch and there's an advisory period. The only difference is we've added an additional lunch, which is a B lunch, because all of our kids are going to need to eat in the gym. And if you have roughly 100 people in the building, the gym won't hold that with the square footage that we have in there. So we've split that up, and we'll have roughly, 40 to 45 kids per lunch in there, and it works out just great. So again, nothing really has changed. Start time is 7:55. The end time is 1:55. Class periods are 70 minutes with a 30-minute lunch and a 30-minute advisory. So we are trying to stay as normal as possible, if you will, so not to disrupt the times that our kids and families have already gotten used to. Again, much like you heard from Jared, our 9th and 12th grade students will attend in-person synchronous learning 2 days a week and would attend at-home live instruction 2 days per week, with Wednesday being that asynchronous day. At the high school, we have not divided our cohorts up yet because there's a lot of issues that we're facing. The survey that I sent out this morning, please, if you have not completed that, it's just a few questions. That's going to give me a really good idea of how many kids are planning to come into the hybrid model versus our CDL model versus the Edgenuity model. Right now, it looks like I've got 32 responses as I'm looking at my screen right now. Need a lot more. Likely what we're going to end up having to do at the high school due to capacity issues within our classrooms is move to a alphabet model. Based on a certain set of alphabet would be cohort A, and then the other remaining alphabet would be cohort B. We will not be able to change cohorts at all if that's the route we end up going. So it is vitally important that please fill out that survey as quickly as you can. I'd like to be able to have this information, as Jared said, out to folks by March 5th. But that's going to depend on folks getting the survey completed, and then me being able to figure out what cohort will work the best for us and our kids. And then as I said earlier, we're moving to 2 lunches from 1, and students will eat lunch in the gym. It's going to be a little bit different as they come into the gym. They'll be handed their lunch. They'll go directly to a seat. They'll sit in a seat. They'll be able to take their mask off, and then they'll eat their lunch. If they're bringing their lunch, same thing. They would just go into the gym, sit in a seat, and they'll have to remain in that seat for the entire 30 minutes. And then once lunch is up, then they'll throw our items away and go to our next class. Again, just kind of some more of the same. They're going to continue to receive 4 70-minute periods per day with a 30-minute advisory period. Our students will be participating in PE, and they have been participating in PE. I think I was just in a classroom with Mr. Panouk just before the ice storm, and he was taking kids through a P90X workout, and he was also doing the workout. So he's sweating along right with the kids, and I felt kind of guilty not jumping in myself. But after watching what they were doing, I'm glad that I probably didn't, because I probably would have hurt myself. Our electives are super and vital to our building. Our kids are required to have X amount of electives to be able to graduate with an Oregon Standard Diploma or an Oregon Honors Diploma. So we have to continue on with the electives that we have, which, as you can imagine, kind of creates a little bit of a mess with cohorting a little bit. So, but we're not too concerned with that because of the safety protocols that we're going to have in place. I think we'll be fine. And then again, class size will be determined by the room occupancy capacity using the 35 square foot per student and teacher guidance. What you saw in a picture from Mr. Ticky earlier was exactly what our folks are doing right now, and that's our custodian is Steve Maurer, is gridding off our classrooms to actually get the maximum amount of kids into our classrooms. Which means for some of our teachers, we're going to have to clear out some of our personal items. And if I've got some of my folks on here, we'll be talking more about that tomorrow. But we're trying to maximize the space as best we can so we can get the most amount of kids in there. You might have heard me talk about this previously if you were in a board meeting, listening in a board meeting, or in a previous family forum. Right now, 40% of my classes for quarters 3 and 4 are above that 17 number, which is what we're thinking is 16, 17 with students and teacher max in a classroom. So that, and this is where we have the issues with pretty much every high school in the state of Oregon, is that room capacity number, because even though we're a small school, we don't have that many classrooms. When you're a large building, much like the old building I was in Salem-Keizer, yes, you have a lot of classrooms, but you also have a lot of students. So proportionally, you still have those same issues, but we're working through those issues. And my hope is, again, we can have some information about cohorting out to you by March 5th. That's what I'd like to have happen. We'll see if we can actually do it, but stay tuned. I'll see what we can do. The health and safety of both students and staff is honestly the primary concern when we're returning to in-person learning. We've had workouts at our building now, in-person workouts for our volleyball group. I think tonight was the first night for basketball, and we really need to be taking those things serious. I know that we've got our coaches talking to our kids and modeling with our kids about how important it is to wear your face mask correctly and to make sure you're socially distanced. It's all a work in progress. We oftentimes, as we see kids on campus, they're so used to grouping themselves together because we're all social beings and we want to be around each other. We just have to remind them, in order to be able to stop the spread and able to stay in person, we all actually have to do our part to make sure that an outbreak doesn't happen in our building. So within the survey are these 2 documents here: in-person campus student expectations. And Troy, you don't need to click on those. But I would highly encourage you, when you're reading the survey, to open that up, because that's exactly what you can expect and your students can expect to see in the building. There's lots of safety protocols. The building has been set up with traffic directional signage to get from one place to another. So just being able to walk from one room to another is not necessarily the case anymore. I think about JFK as having roundabouts now, where in order to be able to stay 6 feet away from each other, we actually have to go through these roundabouts and make sure that we're, again, practicing our social distancing and wearing our face masks. So again, this is the work that Brianne Simpson and Sherry Rodriguez at JFK have done to set up our building. So again, big shout out for them as well. questions and hopefully answers for any folks that have questions about the high school.
Again, if you'd like to unmute and ask a question, this is the appropriate time. Okay, Dale, I mean, you did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow, you are up.
All right. Well, we have lots happening at St. Mary's, and today was amazing having so many of our little kiddos in the building for limited in person. It was very exciting, and there were so many smiles on the faces of our staff and the students today. So it was a great day. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Troy. All right, thank you. So K1 students will begin next week, Monday, March 1st. Again, they will attend 4 days a week in person, and then Wednesday is asynchronous. Students can arrive anywhere between really about 7:55 and 8:15 in the morning. You know, the breakfast is served starting at 8 o'clock. So, you know, especially if you want your students to have breakfast at school, you know, earlier is a little bit better, but they will receive their breakfast, you know, regardless. So, and then our day is over at 1 p.m. So these are similar to our timelines in CDL right now. All right, so these are pretty hard numbers now, where they were tentative the last time we presented, I think at the board meeting. Class sizes are maxed out right now as far as you know, in person goes. So our K1 classes, we can only fit 15 students in those rooms. If you've been in those classrooms, you know that there are these large islands with sinks in them. And unfortunately, that takes up a couple of spaces that students actually could be in. You know, they're not really easy to remove. So that's where they are. So 15 students for our K1 classrooms. Second grade's a little bit of an anomaly. And that's because those teachers had to move out of their classrooms and actually go into other spaces. So they are able to accommodate larger class sizes. So one of our second grades is actually shown in the picture there to the left. It's not in all the way set up, but nearly, and that is going to be happening in the library. And then the other second grade classroom is going to be in what we might consider kind of our art room or multi-purpose room, which is across from the gym. So those spaces are our larger learning spaces that, you know, weren't necessarily classrooms before, but we're just trying to get all of our kiddos in as much as we can, and hopefully keep a couple of extra spaces, you know, if we do have move-ins. So that's why second grade class sizes can be a little bit larger. The 3rd through 5th grade classrooms can accommodate about 18 students. So again, that's because they don't have those islands with the sinks in them like the younger grades. All right, so a little bit messy, but there's a lot of information here. So our K1 pickup and drop off specifically is happening in our normal parking lot area. So you can see there at the top of the screen, you're going to enter the parking lot from College Street. So we will have the other entrance near the buses will be coned off, so we can't enter there. So at the top of the parking lot, you can enter and you drive around until you see a stop sign. So we're going to be adding a stop sign on one of our sandwich boards. That is the place that you're going to need to wait until you're motioned forward to move into the drop-off zone. We have to keep a fire lane open, and in case we have an emergency and we need to allow vehicles to get through. So that's where the drop-off zone is going to be, at the front of the building. When you get there, you want to make sure that your child already has their materials handy, they're in their backpack's close to them, they're really ready to exit, because we want to keep this process as smooth and seamless as possible.
Is that the princess?
Yeah, you want to watch it with me?
Yeah.
Moment. Okay. It might be helpful if your child is sitting on the passenger side, even in the back seat, kind of sitting on the passenger side. We don't want them, we want them getting out onto the sidewalk. As soon as they get out, they will go line up in their teacher's landing zone, which are the colored areas noted there at the bottom. I know it's probably small on your screen. So you will actually see the large sandwich boards with the teachers' faces on them that will be standing there. And so your kiddos will know, where they need to go line up, because they're going to go line up next to their teacher's sign. If you are walking and bringing your students to school, this is a really important detail that we really would like families not to be entering the student, zones over there. So you might notice the colored green dots. It's a little bit hard to see on here because I know it's a little small, but they're on the sidewalk, like the public sidewalk along Elm Street and along College Street. And that's where we would like families to say goodbye to the kiddos, and then let them walk on the sidewalk or help them get across the crosswalk, but say goodbye from there because there's just not a lot of space. And we want to make sure that we can keep the social distancing, with our kiddos. So really, really important. The same goes for pickup in the afternoon. So, if you walk there and you're waiting for kids, we'd like you to wait on those sidewalks so that you're not down where the kids are going to be. We will certainly be watching for you. And, once your child sees you or we see you, we'll make eye contact and we'll help them get to you safely. We just want to make sure that we're being as cautious as possible. And it's going to take some practice and we'll all get better at it. So, we'll have lots of people out to kind of help direct that traffic and give reminders and things like that. All right, so just a reminder that the students remain in their own classroom for instruction and meals. The students will have a 30-minute structured recess that is planned by our PE teacher, and then it's supervised by the classroom teachers. So the kids will still remain in their classroom groups. They won't mix, with other kiddos at that time. And then teachers will be live streaming instruction on Zoom for the students who are either at home because they're feeling a little bit sick or because their families are choosing to keep them in CDL, and learn from home. So we will be live streaming instruction for those families. All right, so second grade students will begin, and third grade students will begin 2 weeks after the K1 students on March 15th. The difference is that second grade, as Troy mentioned earlier, is also going to be able to attend 4 days a week, whereas third grade is going to be in a cohort model with either Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. So we'll have 2 cohorts. They're able to join the live stream when they're at home. And again, the school starts between 8 and 8:15, just like for the other kids. But for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, they actually get done at 1:30, which is the same as they are now in CDL. The 4th and 5th grade students will begin 2 school weeks after March 15th. So spring break is in there as well, but that'll be on April 5th. So again, they're in 2 cohorts and the same details as the 3rd grade. All right, so this part is still in the works. Hopefully by the end of the week, we have a little bit more detail for you, but the 2nd through 5th grade families, we're gonna ask you to be picking up and dropping off your students in the gravel parking lot over next to the old gym. So it's just across the street from our parking lot. We will have a similar kind of pull through like drive-through fashion and one area where you will drop off. So we're still working on the details of that. But we just don't have the diagram worked out just yet. So similarly, you'll drop off, you'll drive up, drop off your kids, and then we will make sure that they are escorted across the street. So there will be a crossing guard available to cross them over to the school side. The difference for 2nd through 5th is they don't line up in their teachers' landing zones in the front of the building, but they walk to the back of the building. So the diagram at the bottom is just showing that under the covered area is where they will be lining up, and then they will be going into their separate entrances as well. So we're just spacing everyone out so that we have less, kind of cross-contamination of different grade levels, and they're really staying in their different zones. All right, so we are hoping that this will be ready for you tomorrow. We're just waiting on a couple last details, but we have created a COVID-19 in-person learning handbook for all the families and students of Mount Angel School District. It's a lot of work that is going to really help inform you. You know, if you're looking for more information about meals, it has a section on that. If you're looking for information about entry and exit, it has the procedures that we're going to be using. It will be continuously updated because, as with all of this is a learning process, and we know that changes will be made. So we will, the link will be on the website, but we will be able to continue to update it as, as we go. And we, at the bottom of the front cover, it shows the last date that it was updated. So that'll help you know, if there have been more recent updates. And we'll continue to communicate that with you. But this handbook, we hope, is going to be a great tool for families. And again, it should be available tomorrow. So information coming very soon. Student information packets are going to be sent home tomorrow. So St. Mary's families should have received a text and email this afternoon that let you know that we are having materials distribution tomorrow since we missed it last week. So you will have this information in your packet tomorrow for your child. It's going to include what to bring to school, the COVID testing consent form. So whether you would want your student to have a COVID test on site or prefer not to, and then a student health and safety agreement. The consent form and the safety agreement need to be sent back with your child when they come in person. And those will be collected in the office. So those are actual paper documents. There will also be a meals survey coming from our nutrition services. It will be sent through a Google form, just like many of our other surveys. That will be sent out tomorrow. And you must sign up for meals to receive them at school. The ladies need to be able to plan for how many people need meals and who needs to receive them. They also have to consider who receives them at home. And so, they have to adjust numbers. And so if you were, let's say you're learning from home 3 days and you're in school 2 days, and you say you want meals, well, then they have to just give those 2 to you in person and then only deliver 3 to your house. So it is very complex. I am so grateful that we have people who are thinking through all of those details for us, but it is a lot. So, just please bear with us. And, if we send something out for you to respond to, we really need that information. It really helps us move forward in our planning. As the middle and high school said, we hope to have 3rd through 5th grade cohorts decided by the end of next week and sent out to families. So that'll be on March 5th. All right, elementary school questions and answers. I hope to answer whatever your questions are.
I have a question about drop off and
Yes.
pickup. If the students are gathering together with their classroom, do they have to wait till everybody is there? And if so, is there a covered area for the older grades to wait?
Do you mean like in the morning when they're arriving? Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, if they go wait with by their teacher's sign, are they having to stay there until the entire class is there to all move together, or do they
No, thank
meet
you.
there
That's
and then go individually?
Yeah, there will be several adults out there. And once we have, a group of 5 or 6 kids actually lined up in that grade levels line, they will go ahead and walk them inside. So it'll be pretty fluid. The kids may have to wait a few minutes just because they might be the first one to arrive after the group has already left, but they won't be outside long. It is a covered area, there in the front, and then also for the kids in the back. But we know that in Oregon, it doesn't rain from the top down. It kind of comes all different directions. So, we'll do our best to limit the amount of time that they have to be out there. Thank you.
Jasmine, there is one question in the chat that includes
Yes.
middle and elementary. It says the middle school and elementary school cohort schedules do not align. Many families have a child in the middle school and another in the elementary school. Is there any way that the cohort schedules can match so that children from the same family are attending in-person school on the same days?
That was a big consideration. And if it's, what it comes down to is developmentally, it is more appropriate for younger kids to have 2 days in person together because they're learning those structures and routines and rhythms, and then practicing it again the next day, and then having the remainder of the week, to be learning from home. So it was, it's not ideal for families, and I absolutely understand that. But we do believe for the elementary schedule that it is best for the students themselves. So, we will do our best. If you have a strong desire to have your child in one or other of the cohorts, either the Monday, Tuesday cohort or the Thursday, Friday cohort, please let your child's teacher know that that's your preference, because they will be helping to make those cohorts, and it would be good for them to have that information. But we'll do the best that we can, but we do understand that they're not aligned, and that's just a different schedule that the middle school and high school have.
Yeah, and just to add to that, trying to get the schedules to work in individual buildings has been a huge challenge, and to try to attempt to align across buildings is almost, I won't say impossible, but it is very difficult. And if we were only talking about 1 or 2 families, that would be different. But once you open it up to 1 or 2 families, then you have, everybody wanting to move their kids and have them aligned in the same days, and it makes it very difficult to even keep a cohort together.
Other questions that I might be able to answer?
There's a question about, is Monday, March 15th a school day? Yeah, I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I believe so. I'm not sure there's any interruption there.
So did we hear it correct that there is there's going to be a pickup time for K through 2 at 1 o'clock, and then 3rd through 5th is going to be at 1:30 then? So you're staggering the elementary school pickup times?
Yes, it coincides with their ending times right now. Yes.
I have a question when it comes to drop off. If we have a student in the K1 group and a student in the 2 through 5 group, is your expectation that we wait in both lines through the parking lot to drop our K1 student off, and the Old St. Mary's Gym parking lot to drop off our older kid? Or can we drop off both kids in one of those parking areas?
That's a great question. That's, some of those things are the things we're still thinking through. That's, I guess, a little bit of the beauty of having just our K1 starting next week and having a couple weeks to, kind of think through that next layer. But I do understand that, Andrea, and that's a challenge. So we'll consider that and try and get information back out to families on what would be the easiest. They do go to two, they part, right at the corner of the building, and the older kids go to the back side of the building and the younger kids stay in the front. So things that we're thinking about are, could you drop them off and they walk on the sidewalk and then part ways, there. But good question about where you could drop both of them, because I definitely don't want you to have to go through both lines. That would be very time intensive. So great question, and I'll get back to you about that.
Other elementary questions for Mrs. Winslow?
I have a question in regards to mask wearing. Are the kiddos going to, at any point during the day, be able to take a mask break, or is that just going to be they'll just be able to take their masks off when they're eating lunch and that is it?
That's a great question, Tony. Thank you. So we do anticipate that, they're kiddos. We know that. So they may need a break from them. We, as adults, it gets a little bit tiring wearing them all day. So there are options in the classroom and then also at recess to be able to take a break. In the classroom, we will have a space. It's not specifically for a mask break. It's just more like of a sensory break, or like you just need to get out of your space and get your wiggles out kind of thing. And when the student is over there, they can take a break from their mask if they would like to. We're not encouraging it, but obviously we're going to work with each child and what they need. So that is a possibility in the classroom. And then when it is recess time, they still have to wear their masks, but we will also have break areas outside so that if they feel like they need to go take a break, they can go to one of those available spaces and take their mask off for a few minutes and then put it back on and rejoin.
I have a quick question about face shields.
Mm-hmm.
And just wondering, can the children wear face shields, or does it have to be masks only?
It really does have to be masks only. That's coming from our nursing staff. We will be sending out a little bit more information about different types of masks that are available and aren't. I actually believe it might even be in that handbook. I'll have to go back and review that, but they need to be 2-ply, like it's 2 layers. And so there are some like the neck, like gaiters, that come up that are really actually pretty thin, that are not recommended. So there will be some guidance that'll help you with that, but it does need to be a mask. The only exceptions are really health related things, and that would be kind of working with your doctor to figure out like what are the needs of the child. So like, let's say a child has asthma or something like that. Maybe there's something that really does prevent them from wearing them. That's the only exception there. So I know we do have to get to our next family forum for our Spanish speaking families. Any last questions real quick, or actually, Troy, do you want to go ahead?
I think I'll move ahead and we'll have a minute.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I don't think I need to cover live streaming much more. This has been mentioned a few times, but we are providing the opportunity for kids to get live instruction 4 days a week in all grades. We do have parents who are choosing to keep their kids at home for CDL, regardless of the option for hybrid. And so this is an opportunity to have that instruction be continuous. And should we have to quarantine or close at any given point, we'll still be able to provide that live instruction. So it's taken a lot of effort on our technology department and some of our teachers who've been piloting this, and we really appreciate them making this a possibility. Our CTP program, Erica could not be with us tonight, but she is up and running. They are currently operating 2 days a week and with the LIPI, and are planning to transition to the hybrid instruction as well. On-site rapid testing, I believe we've We've provided as many of these updates as we could since our last, or have not changed this since our last update. Handbook will have this information in there as well. This is optional. Part of the packets that parents are receiving will give you the opportunity to opt out of this testing, and so you're not forced to participate. And again, it will only be offered if a child or a staff member has the symptoms. Student transportation. This has not been updated because it's been updated in the individual building presentations. Busing is going to continue to be challenging. We think we know who's riding at what times right now, but that may change. Some families are very difficult to get a hold of. Some families will change after we start, but we have a great transportation department, and they're really good about putting together routes that are as timely as possible. We're sanitizing in between every use, and of course, we're following distancing at all times. Our food services program, you heard them mentioned in each of the presentations. Everyone will have a meal when they arrive, and everyone will get lunch. So we're happy to announce to be able to do that. Not all school districts are able to do that, and so we're fortunate that we're able to provide cohorting and opportunities for kids to be able to participate in meals every day.
Troy,
Yes.
I would just add that they do have to be requested though. So that's through the survey that Gail is helping me with.
Thank you.
The families have to sign up to receive those meals.
Yes. If we send you a survey, we really need you to fill it out. That's the only way we can account for the communications and for the preparations for meals and classroom enrollment, and the whole transportation as well. So please provide the feedback when we ask for it. A quick question in the chat: are the paid nurses considered a recommendation or requirement with regards to RSSL regarding mask types? That is directly from our local health authority. They consult with Marion County and the Oregon Health Authority guidance as well. With that is the end of our presentation. I probably have time for one more question. All right, with that, we're going to end this evening. Thank you all. Please.
Troy, sorry, I was having difficulties trying to get to you. This is going to be a question of, it's kind of a multifaceted question, but what are we doing as far as if our school district expands in not only student size, how are we going to expand the classroom size as well?
A good question, Tony. That's the biggest challenge. We can't expand our classroom sizes. We've already shared how we're expanding, for example, our second grade classrooms. We've had to repurpose those classrooms and use our library spaces, our gym spaces, our stage spaces, trying to use those spaces best we can. So that's why we're limited in the majority of our grades to only getting kids in the building 2 days a week. So we are utilizing the spaces as best we can. So we're hoping to stay within those boundaries. We really don't know how many kids are going to show up. It doesn't matter what our numbers are. If we have folks move in, we have to take them. We don't have a choice. So we will be accommodating.
I'm just was wondering, if there has been like in the works, like maybe looking at other avenues, such as like maybe using a different building or an empty building in the town, or a I'm just was wondering for next year, but I know that's for another time. But thank you for answering the question. And also, does that the 36 square foot rule downsize now that we're in the high risk and not the extreme risk?
No, it doesn't matter which risk area you're in, that still applies.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. All right, thank you all. Have a good evening. This is being recorded and will be posted on the website tomorrow. Thank you.